Welcome to Road Less Travel, the Curaçao edition. If you're looking for just the pretty pictures, there is a version of this exact video that just has music in the background. I'm going to do a little voiceover on this one to talk about our trips, what we experienced, and explain some of the pictures. We stayed at a resort called Lionsdive, which you're seeing right now, and the dive organization that we went out with was actually on property, but a different business, and so you're looking at them and their boat right now as well. We had a fantastic experience in Curaçao. We loved generally our time there, highlighted mostly by ocean encounter, the people we dove with. The Lionsdive Resort, the facilities were fine, but the resort was lacking in terms of service and friendliness. What you're not going to get in this video is a lot of my complaining about the place we stayed. I could do that, but I'm not going to do that because really the highlight of the trip was the diving, and the highlight of the diving experience was created by Ocean Encounters, who was just, that organization was fabulous and we love them. Here we are on one of our first days. Maybe this is our first day getting ready to jump in, and you see me in my bright green fins, and here we go and into the water for diving in Curaçao. The diving in Curaçao was good. It was solid. It was not excellent. It wasn't amazing. And most of the stuff was very focused on smaller things. So I don't think we saw a shark the entire time we were there, which was kind of unusual. So we got very accustomed to looking at little things, which very often were wonderful. We saw seahorse. You'll see that in a little bit. You see us here. That's me diving and Sarah coming up right behind me, having a great time diving in Curaçao. This was the first time diving with my 360 camera, which gave a great opportunity for Sarah and me to both be on camera, and I thought hold hands and have this romantic video, but she didn't understand what I was asking her to do when I stuck out my hand, so I got an official photo op and handshake. We saw so many eels on this trip. That was one of the things, and it's always fun when you see one. They're very dramatic. I know if you're not a scuba diver, they look aggressive because they're opening and closing their mouth like they're threatening, but they're not. That's just their way of breathing. They're taking water in and passing it past their gills by opening and closing their mouth. Here's more of the 360 camera that gives you a little wider view, a slight distorted lens, but it was a lot of fun. I didn't use it as much as I thought I would because it doesn't take in a lot of light. So I might take it in future trips, but just kind of for some establishing shots, it's not going to be something I use a lot underwater. Here's Sarah returning to the boat. We come up and we get on that line that you just saw. And here we are again, swimming along, just enjoying the beautiful scenery of Curaçao. One of the cool things about the camera is that it's on a selfie stick, and then it erases any sign of the selfie stick. You don't have to do anything. It just does it for you, which is why you don't see the selfie stick that's I'm holding in my hand in any of these shots. Sarah and I have a number of favorite fish that we get excited whenever we see them on a trip, and this is one of them, a porcupine puffer. I used to have one of these guys in my saltwater tanks when I lived in Kingsport, Tennessee, so we always feel like we're seeing a friend. Here's a flounder that they just do not like anyone being particularly close to them, but they're such a bizarre and interesting fish that it's fun to watch them swim. This is the rope that is on the bottom of the cove right next to where we stayed. It's been laid out there by our dive organization so you can actually go diving yourself without a guide. You just follow the rope out, and when you're done, follow the rope back, and you don't need a guide. And we did that a number of days and had a great time. As we're diving along on our self-guided tour just off the beach of where we're staying, we come across this old boat that has sunk. I don't know how old it is, but anyway, it's dramatic looking and fun, and so I took a picture of it. From here, I turned kind of off to the right. You don't really see me turn, and I see a very dramatic sight, and initially I thought I was going to edit it to make it look creepy, because if you don't know what it is, it feels like it could be creepy, but I decided not to because it's kind of a very cool story. So they are growing staghorn coral. All the coral is endangered because of global warming, because of environmental change, and so they create these floating platform, so to speak, for this type of coral to grow. And then when it gets big enough, they place it around places to give more coral, more fish life, more abundance in the area. And I just think it's cool. Yes, it could look creepy if you decided to think it was. And here's the staghorn coral growing on its own on the bottom. When you're looking at my photos and my videos from a dive trip, what you are watching, what you're seeing is determined by two major factors. And one is kind of obvious. What interested me is where I point the camera. But the other that is more determinative of what you're going to see and not as obvious is, did the footage turn out? I got a great picture of a hermit crab, so you're seeing a hermit crab. I also saw an octopus one day. The footage didn't turn out at all, so you didn't see that. Bluehead wrasse is one of my personal favorites. I just love them. They're so dramatic and colorful. They're not rare. They're not unusual. There are lots of them. They're hard to photograph because they're always on the move. There's another one of our friends, the porcupine puffer, which is a favorite with both me and Sarah when we're diving. In just a second, you're going to see a lionfish. There we go. They're an invasive species, and they are voracious eaters. They're brought over by aquarists who decide they don't want them anymore. They've dumped them in the ocean, and they are just wreaking havoc on the reefs. There's a lobster. Here we go. We come across a tugboat. This is kind of fun. We were swimming along, and I looked up ahead, and significantly ahead of us, 30, 40, 50 yards, something like that, was the tugboat. And I realized pretty shortly all of the divers who were with me were going to be all over this thing. So I swam off from the group, not far, and got some wonderful pictures where there were no people around it, which makes it a lot more dramatic and kind of lonely looking. There are a couple of things I really like about these shots that I got. First of all, as I turn around, you're going to see Sarah right there, and that gives you some sense of the size of the tugboat. The other thing that I really like about these photos, if you've never been underwater, is it really gives you a sense of what water does to color. See how the color of the tugboat changes the further away it gets, how things become just blue and muted. When they're up close, you can see color, but the further away they get, the less and less color you can see. And this picture just wonderfully illustrates that point underwater. Again, these pictures turned out well, so you got lots and lots of the tugboat. I wanted to drop my camera inside, but I didn't want to drop my camera inside, so that's as far as I went. We come over the bow of the tugboat here. You're going to see one of our dive guides. I think this was Gracie. She was fantastic. All of the dive guides were fantastic. We had the best time with them. Here's a lettuce sea slug. Again, a lot of the stuff we saw was very small. I think calling them sea slugs is kind of unfortunate for them. Seahorse, I think I've only seen 2, maybe 3 seahorses in all the dives I've done. We've got another flounder. Sarah saw this one, and so I took a picture of it for her. This is fun. This is our dive leader, Gracie, just kind of floating, and then one of the people on the dive gets very excited because she sights a turtle before anybody else does and quickly points it out to Gracie. Gracie points it out to me and the rest of the group, and so now you see the turtle slowly just kind of floating along. They are so graceful, so wonderful to see on any dive. You feel fortunate anytime you get to see a turtle. This one's kind of funny because he swims actually closer and closer to us, which is a little unusual, almost as if he's like, I want to give you guys a chance to see me. I'm going to show off a little bit. So I'm now going to go off real slowly in the distance. And then almost like he wasn't paying attention to what he was doing, he wound up running into this and got stuck for a second. Can turtles get embarrassed? Not sure if they can. This guy was definitely embarrassed after showing off. All right, this is fun. This is an anemone. You see lots of them. Very often they're associated with clownfish, but you can see a tiny little shrimp right in there. And very often if you get close to the anemones in this area, you'll see different kinds of shrimp. There we go, pointed out for you right there. It's just fun to see what's living in them, using them for protection. We have another hermit crab right here. This is another one that I think Sarah discovered and pointed out for me. These are called trumpet fish, and they're very interesting. Normally, they're floating up and down. So very often they're in the middle of reeds and stuff and just floating and, in essence, camouflaging themselves in the midst of plants. Here's another turtle. As I said, it's always good when a turtle comes by, always fun and exciting. This was also an unusual trip because this was one of the few groups of people that when a turtle came into sight, they behaved themselves. We've been a lot of places where people rush the turtle and scare the turtle. Okay, one of our favorite fish, spotted boxfish. Sarah and I get excited. They're not super rare. We see them regularly. Some of them are as small as just like a centimeter square. And so they're just adorable when small, but kind of kooky and fun and interesting when they're larger as well. I thought these outcroppings were really interesting as I swam over them. So you're getting a picture of just kind of the rustic beauty of them. Okay, this looks like a snake. It is not. As I say right there on the screen, it is a type of eel. It is a sharp-tail eel. And the fun thing about a sharp-tail eel is, unlike many types of eels, they're not shy, as one of our dive guides said, oh, they're show-off. So they like coming out in the public. They like being seen. They like swimming around for the person with the camera. Obviously, they don't know anything about that. But this one was nice enough to swim around for me, so I got some very good, dramatic pictures of this sharp-tail eel. It was probably 2 feet long, something like that, to give you some sort of size of reference. Next, we're going to see some cuttlefish, and these are related to squid, and you'll see these groups of cuttlefish swimming around. They're just very curious little creatures. They're hard to get close to because they're very skittish, but they're fun and odd little creatures. Here is Sarah. Obviously, somebody put a couple of park benches down on the outside our resort in the water for fun, so she was sitting there. We got some more of those dramatic formations as we swim by them. I just think they're very cool to look at. We're now going to see a couple of fish that are unusual for us on this trip. Not this. We saw a lot of these. Very skittish little guys. First is the eel, and this guy was just massive. He was big. And it was fun to see him and get some good footage of him. So here I am zooming in on him. I'm probably 2 feet away from him with my camera to get these pictures. After the eel, we get to see I think this is a French angelfish. And normally you don't get very close to them. And then this guy's a cowfish. His pattern and coloring is just spectacular. So I had fun that I got as close as I did. This is a parrotfish. There are several different types of parrotfish, and you see them all the time. As we're nearing the end of the video, let me talk a little bit about ocean encounters and why they were so fantastic. They are the most relaxed, and I don't mean not safe. They're very conscientious, but most relaxed dive organization we've ever been with. They are really focused on making sure you have a good time. And if you have a request, if it's reasonable, they're going to work with you. They also are unusual in that when they guide you, and this took a while for us to adjust, very often guides are kind of swimming quickly. These guides swim very slowly, and the idea is kind of 25 yards in any direction from them. You're welcome to swim off and take a look at whatever you want to. And that created a very relaxed environment. So we love them, which is this last portion of our video, is really giving thanks to the dive masters and the boat captains at Ocean Encounters, because they were fantastic. And if we went back, we probably would stay someplace else, but we would 100% stay with Ocean Encounters and hopefully dive with some of these very same people again, because they were remarkable.